How the Twilight Zone first saw man on the moon. The very first entry of the Twilight Zone uncannily foreshadowed the Apollo 11 moon landing, whose 50th anniversary is next month. That pilot episode, which aired 60 years ago this fall and sold CBS on the cult series, dealt with the country's early attempts to hurl humans into the cosmic void, depicting what viewers learn only late in the show is an astronaut trainee who has been in an isolation chamber for nearly 3 weeks. Many American TV watchers were still paranoid about the Sputnik launch 2 years earlier and didn't know what lay ahead as man reached for the stars. For them, video 50 years later, the moon is still great for business. Associated Press. Broadcast on October 2, 1959, Where Is Everybody? Depicts an amnesiac Earl Holliman wandering through a deserted town, unaware of who he is or how he got there. All the while, it turns out that Holliman is playing an Air Force sergeant who has been in an isolation chamber for 484 hours and 36 minutes, simulating a multi-week trip to the moon and back. He has hallucinated. The following evening, he read the teleplay over dinner. I pushed my dinner, Serling recalled shortly before his death in 1975 that a Time magazine article about NASA-type isolation chamber experiments helped inspire the episode. An article dated, Where Is Everybody? Epitomized what Serling described in his narration as the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition. As an Air Force Gallery Apollo 11 in Pictures Photo Services. As it happens, Serling wrote Where Is Everybody? Only after CBS turned down his previous script, The Happy Place. In that drama, Holliman learned about the clash over The Happy Place only on his last night of filming in December 1958. If they had told me. For his part, Holliman faced his own challenges with his largely one-man segment, which was shot over 9 days. The first day was long, Holliman said, and at the end of it I heard the camera guy say, oh, which is not what you want to hear. Well, they checked. When a fatigued Holliman left the set, he found he was running a fever of 102. He was unable to use. Stevens had directed dozens of episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents and the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, and self-praised the Hitchcock look he gave to the pilot. A number of brief. There are other touches. Early on, Holliman offered his own input on Where Is Everybody? At one point, Serling may have appropriated the idea when he adapted the teleplay as a story in his 1960 collection Tales from the Twilight Zone. In both versions, as for the moon landing, at the episode's end, as he is carried away on a stretcher across a tarmac, Ferris looks up at Luna and says, "Hey, you don't go away up there." Next time, less than a decade later, Holliman said, "1 billion people on Earth heard Neil Armstrong say, that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Promise made. Holliman has no special plans to observe Apollo 11's golden anniversary. I am just Susan C. Beachy contributed research. MSN are empowering women in sport this summer. Find out more about.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,